Stiopian. I want to speak to you today about a habit that wears a soft smile but carries sharp consequences. A habit many of us learned so early we mistake it for kindness, for goodness, for grace. I want to speak about being too friendly, about opening every door, lowering every guard, offering warmth where respect has not yet arrived. There is a difference between being kind and being careless with your spirit, and too many good hearts have been bruised, because no one ever taught them that difference. From the time we are small, we are praised for being pleasant. We are rewarded for being agreeable. We are told that a gentle voice will keep the peace, that a welcoming smile will make the world safe. And so we practice friendliness like a sacred ritual. We laugh when we want to cry. We say yes when our bones are screaming no. We make space for people who arrive empty-handed and leave with our energy, our time, our confidence tucked neatly into their pockets. We call it love. We call it maturity. We call it being the bigger person. But too often it is simply fear dressed up as politeness. Being too friendly teaches the world that your boundaries are optional. It teaches people that access to you is free, unlimited, and requires no accountability. When you greet disrespect with a grin, when you soften your truth so others can remain comfortable, when you explain your worth instead of standing in it, you are quietly telling the world how to treat you. Not everyone is listening with good intentions. Some people listen only to learn how far they can go. There are those who mistake friendliness for weakness, who see your open heart as an open invitation to overstep. They lean on you too hard. They borrow without returning. They speak carelessly, knowing you will smooth the moment with humor or forgiveness. And each time you excuse them, each time you say, "It's fine," when it is not, you move a little farther away from yourself. You begin to believe that being liked is more important than being respected, and that belief will cost you dearly. Kindness does not require you to abandon yourself. Warmth does not demand self-erasure. You can be compassionate without being available to everyone. You can be loving without being endlessly accommodating. True grace includes discernment. It knows when to open the door and when to close it gently, firmly, without apology. There is a quiet strength in knowing that not everyone deserves the same version of you. Some people earn your laughter. Some earn your trust. Some earn only courtesy, and some earn distance. This is not cruelty. This is wisdom. The soul that survives with its light intact learns to ration its fire, not because it has less love, but because it has learned its value. Being too friendly often comes from a deep desire to be seen as good. But goodness does not live in constant self-sacrifice. Goodness lives in honesty. It lives in integrity. It lives in the courage to say, "This does not sit right with me," and to let that truth stand without decoration. When you stop over explaining your boundaries, you teach others that your no is not a negotiation. There is also a grief hidden inside excessive friendliness. It is the grief of wanting to be chosen, of hoping that if you are pleasant enough, helpful enough, forgiving enough, someone will finally say, "You matter." But you do not earn your worth through endurance. You do not prove your value by how much you can tolerate. You were worthy before you ever learned to smile through discomfort. When you are too friendly, you often absorb what does not belong to you. Other people's moods become your responsibility. Other people's problems become your burden. You feel guilty for stepping back, for resting, for prioritizing your own needs. But let me tell you this plainly. It is not your job to manage the emotions of everyone around you. It is not your duty to rescue people from the consequences of their own behavior. Love that costs you your peace is too expensive. There is a powerful shift that happens when you choose respect over approval. Respect does not require applause. It does not beg for validation. It stands quietly, rooted, unshaken by temporary opinions. When you stop trying to be universally liked, you gain the freedom to be deeply authentic. Some will misunderstand you. Some will walk away. Let them. The ones who remain will know you, not just the version of you that exists to make them comfortable. Being too friendly can also silence your voice. You hesitate to speak your truth because you fear conflict. You swallow your feelings because you don't want to seem difficult. But unspoken words do not disappear. They settle in the body. They turn into tension, resentment, exhaustion. Eventually, they ask to be heard, and when they rise all at once, they can sound harsher than they ever needed to. Speaking honestly early is an act of kindness to yourself and to others. You are allowed to be calm and firm at the same time. You are allowed to say no without adding a story. You are allowed to outgrow relationships that require you to stay small. You are allowed to protect your energy like the sacred resource it is. Not everyone will applaud this version of you, but the right ones will recognize it as self-respect, not arrogance. There is a myth that strength must be loud and aggressive. But there is another kind of strength, a quieter one, that lives in measured words and steady eyes. It does not rush to explain itself. It does not chase acceptance. It simply stands. This strength understands that friendliness is a choice, not an obligation. It is offered intentionally, not automatically. When you stop being too friendly, you begin to see people more clearly. You notice who respects your boundaries and who resents them. You notice who listens and who only waits for their turn to speak. This clarity is not meant to harden you. It is meant to guide you. It helps you invest your love where it can grow, instead of pouring it into places that drain you dry. Let us talk about forgiveness, because it is often confused with friendliness. Forgiveness is an internal act. It is about freeing your heart from bitterness. It does not require reconciliation. It does not require continued access. You can forgive someone and still decide they no longer belong in your life. That decision is not revenge. It is self-preservation. There is also a sacred loneliness that comes with choosing yourself. When you stop being overly friendly, there may be moments when the room feels quieter. Fewer messages, fewer invitations. This silence can feel uncomfortable at first, but sit with it. In that quiet, you will hear your own voice again. You will rediscover what you enjoy, what you value, what nourishes you. And from that place, you will build connections that are honest, balanced, and real. You were not born to be an emotional shelter for every storm that passes. You were not created to be endlessly agreeable. You were created with discernment, with intuition, with the ability to choose where your energy flows. Trust that inner knowing. When something feels off, it usually is. When a smile feels forced, listen to that tension. Your body often tells the truth long before your mouth does. Stopping being too friendly does not mean becoming cold. It means becoming conscious. It means letting your kindness be guided by self-respect. It means offering warmth without surrendering your dignity. It means understanding that love, to be sustainable, must include you. One day you will look back and realize that the moments you stopped over, giving were the moments your life began to balance. You will see how much lighter you feel when you are no longer carrying what was never yours. You will notice how your laughter sounds more genuine, how your rest feels deeper, how your relationships feel safer, not because you gave more, but because you finally gave wisely. So be kind, yes. Be compassionate, absolutely. But do not confuse friendliness with obligation. Do not trade your peace for politeness. Do not shrink your truth to fit into someone else's comfort. The world does not need you exhausted and agreeable. It needs you whole, grounded, and honest. When you learn to stand in your worth, friendliness becomes a gift, not a reflex. And the people who receive it will know its value, because you have finally learned yours. Boundaries reveal true intentions, because they remove the comfort of ambiguity. When everything is allowed, when access is unlimited, when your time, energy, and emotions are always available, People rarely have to show who they really are. They can take without asking, speak without thinking, stay without contributing. But the moment you draw a line, the moment you say this is where I stop and this is where you must meet me with respect, something shifts. The fog clears, masks loosen. Intentions step forward into the light. A boundary is not a wall built out of anger. It is a line drawn out of self-awareness. It does not shout or accuse. It simply states what is acceptable and what is not. And in that simplicity, it becomes a mirror. Some people look into that mirror and nod in understanding. They adjust their behavior. They respect the line because they respect you. Others react with irritation, guilt, tripping, or sudden distance. They call you difficult. They say you have changed. But what has truly changed is that they can no longer move freely through your life without accountability. When boundaries are introduced, genuine intentions feel no threat. A person who values you does not need unlimited access to feel secure. They do not fear your independence or resent your self-respect. They listen. They ask questions. They care enough to learn where you begin and end. But a person who benefits from your silence, your overgiving, your lack of limits will feel exposed. Boundaries interrupt convenience, and inconvenience is often the first thing that reveals motive. Many people confuse boundaries with rejection, but they are not the same. A boundary does not say I do not care. It says I care enough to be honest. It says I will not abandon myself to keep this connection alive. And the response you receive to that honesty tells you everything you need to know. If someone becomes angry when you protect your peace, it is often because your peace was never part of their concern. Boundaries have a way of sorting relationships without force. You do not have to argue, explain endlessly, or prove your worth. You simply hold your line. Some people naturally step back into respect. Others drift away, unable to function without the freedom to overstep. This is not loss. This is clarity. What remains after boundaries are set is usually more solid, more balanced, more real. True intentions are patient. They are not rushed by entitlement. They do not demand immediate access or constant availability. When someone truly cares, they understand that you are a whole person, not a resource. They recognize that your time is not infinite, your energy is not disposable, and your emotions are not a public space. Boundaries do not scare them because their connection to you is not built on taking more than they give. There is also a deep internal truth revealed when you begin setting boundaries. You learn who you have been performing for. You notice how often your comfort was placed second. You realize how many yeses were born out of fear rather than desire. And as you start saying no, as you start choosing yourself, you witness which relationships were held together only by your sacrifice. That realization can be painful, but it is also freeing. People with unclear intentions prefer blurred lines. They thrive in situations where expectations are unspoken and limits are flexible. In those spaces, they can deny responsibility and avoid accountability. But a boundary introduces structure. It brings definition, and definition demands integrity. Those who lack it often reveal themselves through defensiveness, manipulation, or withdrawal. Boundaries do not need to be harsh to be effective. They can be spoken softly and still carry strength. A calm no, a clear request, a refusal without apology. These small acts create big revelations. The way someone responds to a calm boundary often tells more than years of friendly conversation. Respect shows itself not in words, but in behavior after the limit is set. When you stop explaining your boundaries to people who are committed to misunderstanding them, you step into a new kind of freedom. You no longer chase validation. You no longer beg for basic consideration. You observe, you listen, and you let people show you who they are. Boundaries turn relationships into truth tellers. There is a difference between someone being disappointed and someone being disrespectful. Disappointment can coexist with respect. Disrespect cannot. A person with good intentions may feel momentary discomfort when a boundary is placed, but they do not punish you for it. They do not retaliate. They do not attempt to make you feel guilty for choosing yourself. They adjust because the connection matters more than their immediate comfort. Boundaries also reveal your own intentions toward yourself. Each time you uphold a limit, you send a message inward that your needs matter. Each time you break one to please someone else, you teach yourself that your peace is negotiable. Over time, this internal dialogue shapes your confidence, your self-trust, your sense of worth. Boundaries are not only about how others treat you, but about how you treat yourself when it would be easier not to. Some people only know how to love without limits, but love without limits often becomes control, dependency, or entitlement. Healthy love understands space. It honors autonomy. It does not panic when you choose rest, distance, or privacy. Boundaries help you distinguish between attachment and care, between need and respect. When boundaries are absent, intentions hide behind charm, familiarity, and history. When boundaries are present, intentions are forced to stand on their own. Who stays kind when you say no? Who listens when you speak honestly? Who remains consistent when they no longer benefit unfairly? These are the truths boundaries uncover without confrontation. You do not owe anyone unlimited access to your life. Access is earned through respect, consistency, and care. Boundaries are the gatekeepers of that access. They do not exist to punish others, but to protect what is valuable. And what is valuable should never be available to everyone without discernment. As you grow more comfortable setting boundaries, you may notice that fewer people feel entitled to you, but the connections that remain feel safer, calmer, more mutual. You may speak less, but your words carry more weight. You may smile less out of obligation, but more out of genuine peace. And in that space, intentions continue to reveal themselves quietly, honestly, unmistakably, showing you who is aligned with your worth and who is only aligned with your availability. Peace is more valuable than approval because approval is borrowed, while peace is owned. Approval depends on moods, opinions, expectations, and shifting standards that are never fully under your control. One day it is given freely. The next day it is withheld without explanation. Peace, on the other hand, lives inside you. It settles in your breath, your body, your sleep, your sense of self. When you prioritize approval, you hand your inner world to external judgment. When you prioritize peace, you reclaim authorship over your own life. Many people are taught early that being accepted is a form of safety. So they learn to read rooms carefully, to adjust their tone, to soften their truth, to become whatever version feels easiest for others to approve of. Over time, this constant self-editing becomes exhausting. You begin to feel fragmented, unsure of who you are when no one is watching, unsure of what you actually want versus what will be applauded. Peace cannot survive in that environment because it requires alignment, and alignment requires honesty. Approval often asks you to betray yourself in small, repeated ways, laughing at things that hurt you, agreeing to plans that drain you, staying silent when something crosses your values. Each compromise seems harmless on its own, but together they build a quiet resentment that lives beneath the surface. That resentment is the cost of approval. Peace demands a different price. It asks you to risk being misunderstood. It asks you to tolerate discomfort. It asks you to stand alone at times. But what it gives in return is steadiness, clarity, and rest. There is a unique anxiety that comes with chasing approval. It keeps you alert, scanning for signals, replaying conversations, wondering if you said too much or not enough. Your nervous system stays activated because your sense of worth is tied to reactions you cannot predict. Peace slows that cycle. When you stop needing everyone to agree with you, your body relaxes. Your thoughts become quieter. You move through the world with less tension because you are no longer performing for acceptance. Choosing peace often looks like disappointment to others. People who benefited from your constant availability may accuse you of changing. People who relied on your silence may feel threatened by your honesty. But peace does not require consensus. It does not need permission. It simply asks whether you can live with yourself at the end of the day. Whether you can lie down at night without replaying regret. Whether your choices feel true in your bones. Approval is loud. It comes with praise, validation, attention. Peace is quieter. It feels like a deep exhale. It feels like not having to explain yourself. It feels like making decisions that make sense to you even if no one claps. This quietness is often mistaken for weakness, but it is actually resilience. It means you are no longer dependent on external noise to confirm your worth. When peace becomes the priority, your relationships change. You stop chasing connections that require you to shrink. You stop engaging in conversations that leave you feeling unsettled. You choose depth over popularity, sincerity over charm. Some people drift away because they were attached to the version of you that sought approval. Others come closer because they recognize the calm that comes from self-respect. Peace refines your circle without force. There is also a spiritual dimension to peace that approval can never reach. Approval keeps you outward facing, constantly adjusting to fit. Peace turns you inward toward reflection, discernment, and grounded decision-making. It allows you to hear your intuition more clearly. It strengthens your ability to say yes with intention and no without guilt. Over time, this inner clarity becomes a compass, guiding you away from chaos and toward alignment. Many fears are attached to letting go of approval. Fear of rejection, fear of being judged, fear of being alone. But approval never truly protects you from these things. It only delays them. Peace teaches you that even when disapproval comes, you remain intact. Even when others misunderstand you, you still belong to yourself. That belonging is the foundation of confidence that does not shake easily. Peace is also closely tied to boundaries. When you value peace, you become selective about where you place your energy. You stop arguing with people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop explaining decisions that are already clear to you. You stop engaging in dynamics that disturb your inner balance. This selectivity is not avoidance, it is self-trust in action. Approval often demands speed, quick responses, immediate agreement, instant availability. Peace allows for pause. It gives you space to think, to feel, to choose. In that pause, you begin to notice how many things you once agreed to out of pressure rather than desire. As you slow down, your life becomes less reactive and more intentional. There is a moment, usually quiet, when you realize that the approval you were chasing never filled the emptiness it promised to. Compliments faded. Praise moved on to someone else. Expectations grew heavier. And yet the longing remained. Peace addresses that longing at its root. It does not try to fill you with noise. It allows you to be enough without performance. When peace matters more than approval, your self-talk changes. You stop asking, "Do they like me?" and start asking, "Does this feel right?" You stop measuring your worth by responses and start measuring it by alignment. This shift may not make life easier in the beginning, but it makes it more honest. And honesty creates a stability that approval never can. Peace does not mean you will never care what others think. It means their opinions no longer override your inner truth. It means feedback is information, not a verdict. It means disagreement does not equal danger. In this space, you become less defensive and more grounded, less reactive and more present. Over time, prioritizing peace reshapes your entire life rhythm. Your mornings feel less rushed. Your conversations feel less forced. Your decisions feel cleaner. You may do fewer things, but you do them with more presence. You may speak less, but when you do, your words come from a place of clarity rather than fear. Peace is not passive. It is an active, daily choice to honor yourself even when it costs you applause. It is choosing rest over recognition, truth over popularity, alignment over acceptance. And once you taste that kind of peace, the kind that does not depend on anyone else's permission, approval begins to lose its grip, its urgency, its power over your sense of self, leaving you rooted in something steadier, something quieter, something that holds you without conditions. Discernment is the highest form of grace because it blends compassion with wisdom, softness with strength, and love with clarity. It is the quiet ability to see things as they are without needing to dramatize them or deny them. Discernment does not rush to judge, nor does it rush to accept. It observes. It listens. It feels beneath the surface of words and actions. Where impulse reacts, discernment pauses. Where fear clings, discernment releases. This pause is not hesitation. It is awareness in motion. Grace without discernment can become self-betrayal. When grace is offered without clarity, it often turns into tolerance of what should never have been allowed. Discernment teaches grace where to land and where to withdraw. It understands that not every smile is safe, not every apology is sincere, not every presence is a blessing. It allows you to be kind without being naive, open without being exposed, forgiving without being foolish. Discernment begins within. It is the ability to tell the difference between what feels familiar and what feels right. Many people confuse the two. Familiarity often comes from patterns, from repetition, from what the nervous system recognizes, even if it causes harm. Discernment asks deeper questions. It asks whether something nourishes or merely distracts, whether a connection expands you or slowly erodes you, whether a promise carries substance or only sound. This form of grace does not announce itself. It does not seek recognition. It does not explain its choices to everyone. Discernment is often mistaken for distance or coldness because it does not perform warmth for approval. But beneath its quiet exterior is deep care. It simply understands that energy is sacred and must be placed intentionally. Discernment knows that access to your life is not a right but a privilege revealed over time. Those who lack discernment often live in extremes. They either trust too quickly or close themselves off entirely. Discernment walks the middle path. It allows curiosity without surrender. It allows hope without illusion. It allows love without losing oneself. It understands that people reveal themselves in patterns, not in moments, and it watches long enough to notice the difference. There is a humility to discernment that many overlook. It accepts that you do not need to be right about everything. It allows you to change your mind when new information arrives. It frees you from defending old decisions that no longer align with your growth. Grace lives in that flexibility. Pride insists on consistency at all costs. Discernment insists on truth, even when it requires adjustment. Discernment also protects the heart from bitterness. When you see clearly, you stop taking things personally that were never about you. You recognize projections, insecurities, and limitations in others without absorbing them. This clarity prevents resentment from taking root. Instead of asking why someone treated you a certain way, you understand who they are capable of being and who they are not. That understanding softens the heart without weakening it. In relationships, discernment shows itself in pacing. It does not rush intimacy. It allows trust to build naturally through consistency and accountability. It notices how someone responds to boundaries, to disagreement, to moments when things do not go their way. Discernment listens not only to what is said, but to what is avoided, to what is repeated, to what never changes despite promises. Grace, guided by discernment, knows when to stay patient and when to step back. Discernment is especially powerful because it does not need to control outcomes. It understands that forcing clarity often creates resistance. Instead, it allows time and behavior to speak. It lets people show who they are rather than demanding explanations. In this way, discernment removes the burden of convincing or correcting others. It trusts reality to reveal itself. There is also discernment in knowing when to speak and when silence is more truthful. Not every observation needs to be shared. Not every realization needs an audience. Grace understands that restraint can be an act of respect, both for yourself and for others. Discernment chooses words carefully, knowing that speech has weight and silence has power. Many mistakes are made not because of bad intentions, but because of ignored intuition. Discernment is the courage to listen to that inner signal even when it contradicts logic or desire. It is the quiet knowing that something is off even when everything looks fine on the surface. Grace honors that knowing. It does not shame it. It does not override it to please others. It treats intuition as a trusted guide rather than an inconvenience. Discernment refines compassion. Without it, compassion can become enabling. With it, compassion becomes empowering. You can care about someone without rescuing them. You can support without sacrificing your well-being. You can understand without excusing harm. This balance is grace in its most mature form. Discernment also teaches you how to forgive wisely. It allows forgiveness without forgetting. It releases bitterness without reopening doors that lead to the same wounds. Grace does not require repeated exposure to harm. Discernment remembers patterns so the heart does not have to relearn painful lessons. This remembrance is not holding grudges. It is holding truth. As discernment deepens, your life becomes simpler. Not because there are fewer challenges, but because there is less confusion. Decisions become clearer. Relationships become more honest. You spend less time questioning yourself and more time trusting your responses. This trust creates inner stability that does not depend on constant reassurance. Discernment also reshapes how you see yourself. You become more gentle with your mistakes because you understand growth is layered. You stop harsh self-judgment and replace it with reflection. Grace turns inward as much as it turns outward. Discernment helps you recognize when you are acting from fear versus alignment, from habit versus intention. In moments of conflict, discernment prevents unnecessary escalation. It recognizes when a conversation is about resolution and when it is about control. It knows when to engage and when disengagement is the healthiest response. Grace does not need to win every battle. Discernment chooses peace over proving a point. There is a spiritual maturity in discernment that cannot be rushed. It is earned through experience, through disappointment, through observation, through listening more than speaking. Over time, it becomes less effortful. You no longer second-guess your instincts as often. You recognize signals earlier. Grace becomes embodied rather than performed. Discernment honors timing. It understands that even the right thing done at the wrong time can cause harm. It waits for readiness, for openness, for alignment. This patience is not passivity. It is trust in the natural unfolding of truth. Grace moves with time rather than against it. When discernment leads, you no longer feel compelled to explain your every choice. You become comfortable with being misunderstood by those who do not see clearly. Grace does not demand agreement. It simply remains rooted in integrity. Discernment knows that clarity does not always look loud or convincing from the outside. The highest form of grace is not endless giving. It is conscious giving. It is love guided by wisdom. It is kindness protected by clarity. Discernment allows grace to be sustainable. It prevents burnout, resentment, and self-loss. It keeps the heart open without leaving it unguarded. As you grow into discernment, your presence changes. You listen more deeply. You react less impulsively. You move with intention rather than urgency. People may not always understand your choices, but they will feel the steadiness behind them. Grace does not need to be dramatic to be powerful. Discernment teaches you that everything does not deserve a response, an explanation, or a second chance. Some things deserve distance, some deserve closure, some deserve quiet release. Grace accepts this without guilt. It understands that protecting your inner world is not selfish but necessary. In this way, discernment becomes a form of self-respect that radiates outward. It shapes how you love, how you speak, how you choose, how you let go. It allows you to walk through life with open eyes and a guarded heart that still knows how to soften, still knows how to care, still knows how to offer kindness without losing itself, still knows how to hold space without surrendering truth, still knows how to love with clarity, patience, and depth, guided not by fear or fantasy but by a quiet, steady awareness that continues to unfold, deepen, and refine the grace with which you move through the world, moment by moment, choice by choice, breath by breath, learning to trust what you see, what you feel, and what you know without needing to harden, without needing to rush, without needing to close your heart, allowing discernment to remain the gentle, unwavering compass that shapes every interaction, every boundary, every act of compassion, every silence. Every step forward into a life that is lived with intention rather than impulse, wisdom rather than reaction, grace rather than confusion, clarity rather than noise, and a calm inner certainty that continues to guide you forward into deeper alignment, deeper honesty, deeper peace, as you remain present, attentive, and rooted in the truth that unfolds quietly within you, guiding your spirit onward, softly, steadily, without demand, without force, without end.